Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I am having a dilemma, guys. I am trying to pack for Erie, Pennsylvania. We've got a team series event. Myself and Drew Gill are paired up to fish as a team somewhere in Erie, Pennsylvania. And I say somewhere because we don't know where we're going. They told us we had to show up by 3 p.m. Saturday afternoon, and we would be somewhere within 60 miles of Erie, Pennsylvania. I can't bring my boat. Drew can't bring his boat because we're being given, well, not given, but we are using a Major League Fishing boat. So we have to bring all our tackle. And part of that means we're going to have to figure out what tackle we even need to bring in the first place, which I'm probably going to end up bringing almost everything and then trying to figure down, how a way to pare it down that day. Because the reality is, we don't know where we're fishing until I think 30 minutes before we are actually fishing. So we're basically told this is where you need to go. And then that's where we're fishing, and we get a short ride around period before we start fishing. So I'm really trying to look at baits that are very, very versatile, baits that I can use for many different techniques, baits that catch both largemouth and smallmouth. The only thing I know about Erie, PA is it is right on the shores of Lake Erie. Excuse me. It is Presque Isle is right there. So just because we fish Lake Erie doesn't even mean we're going to be fishing smallmouth, because if they tell us we can only fish the Presque Isle Bay, I know there's largemouth in there too. I've never fished it, don't know anything about it. I just have seen it on the maps of Lake Erie when I've looked at Lake Erie. But I know that there's a very fishable population of largemouth that live in that bay. So if we end up going on Lake Erie, then we need smallmouth stuff. If we're staying in Presque Isle, we need largemouth stuff, and we're not allowed to look at a map. So I don't know what other lakes are there. I don't recall driving through or past any lakes when I've driven through Erie, because for me to get to New York, I drive right through Erie, PA. And I don't recall any. I do think that there's potential of Chautauqua Lake, which I think is probably within that range. But I don't know. I don't know of any other lakes that are in that area. There's no major tournament bodies of water that I'm familiar with, but the reality is we could be on a pond. I mean, there's so I fish Sunday against I don't have it here, but it's against three other teams. So there's four of us, four boats on the water. So from that standpoint, we could literally go to a 50-acre lake and bounce around all day on that. I don't see Erie, PA, who is putting on this event, sending us that far outside of Erie, Pennsylvania. So my gut is telling me we're gonna fish. They're gonna fish different rounds, some on Presque Isle Bay, some on Lake Erie, but really don't know. I'm excited. This is fun. Like, this is gonna be a cool thing because you're just showing up. I'm not even towing a boat out there. So I'm packing a bunch of stuff up into the truck, a bunch of rods and reels. We're loading the whole family up. We're gonna make a end of summer vacation out of this. Uh, might be a little crazy for the rest of the housemates, having my two boys running around, but I think it'll be a good time. So, some of the baits that I'm really looking at to play a big role for me. Uh, First one, the little 3-inch Pit Boss. The little 3-inch Pit Boss is one that I honestly I did not throw much at all until Hank started using it on a hover rig and catches the fire out of them. And after that, I've really started punching with it. I start flipping with it. I use it as trailers on jigs, on swim jigs. I'll use it on a trailer and almost anything. So I'm definitely bringing some Pit Boss, a lot of which are going to be the 3-inch size, because I can, like I said, I can throw it for hover rigs. It's a good smallmouth bait too, especially if you pull the two end flappers off and then you just have the body with the two tentacles. It's a really good smallmouth bait. You can drop shot it. You can put it on a Ned rig. Very versatile. And in this format, again, that 3-inch Pit Boss gets a lot of bites, total weight format. So that's something I'm going to be looking for. Another one, I'm going to be bringing a bunch of small little Kitech swing impact swim baits. They're just fish catching machines. Whether you rig it on a finesse tush like I've got here, fish it just like a swim bait, or you put it on a drop shot rig, or you put it on a wobble head, which are two good smallmouth techniques for Lake Erie smallmouth. Again, you can put it as a trailer if you want to throw it on a swim jig. Maybe you want to put it on a buzz bait. You can do that. So probably the 3.8 size, 3.3, 3.8 size, kind of a go-to for me. I could see little swim bait being a really good producer, and a lot of that goes back to, um, my experience on the Great Lakes here, and a lot of which actually growing up in the Chicago area, where you had a lot of largemouth in some of the harbors and a lot of smallmouth out on the lake, and you could generally throw a small swim bait around and kind of catch both, especially in areas where they come together. So we'll see. Another one, absolutely, I'm taking my Maxent the Generals. Just an stone cold killer right there that again can be fished so many different ways. You can wacky rig it, you can fish it, Texas rig it, you can, fish deep weed lines with it, you can punch with it, you can drop shot it. A lot of different things you can do with it. I just feel like I think that's gonna be a really good bait, especially if we're fishing largemouth. I see that just kind of getting thrown all over the place. Gotta have a bunch of those. Another really versatile worm is the Hitw, and that's going to be another one to have rigged from a NACO standpoint, which I know Drew is a huge NACO fisherman, so that might be something that we're doing a bunch of. I can take the old Magnum Hitworm and pair it up against his NACO Rama, I think is what his worm is called, and see which one prevails. But I feel like that's another one you can fish as a drop shot. You can wacky rig it, you can NACO rig it. Just a good worm, all around worm, which again, if we're fishing largemouth, we've all kind of gotten away from worms, I feel like, for largemouth, especially in grass fisheries, but absolute must have. And then going back to the smallmouth world, if we're out there, I gotta have my flatworms. I gotta have them for the drop shot. I just feel like that's one of the all-around best baits for smallmouth. But the other thing that you guys know I love to do with the flatworm is I throw it on a hover rig and I catch piles and piles of largemouth on it as well. So from that standpoint, I just feel like, again, that's going to be versatile. I think there's definitely opportunity to power fish if we're fishing largemouth or if we're on some inland lakes. As much as I want to take a pile of frogs, I don't know that I'm going to do that. I might grab one or two, but like if we're fishing areas that could potentially be good areas for frog fishing, you probably do some other things in those areas too. You can probably throw a Texas rig, you probably throw a vibrating jig or a swim jig. It's just when you really sit down and think about all the potential scenarios, you're like, well, what if we go to a dirty water fishery? Then you need dirty water stuff. What if we go to a shallow body, or let's say it's a river? We could go to a river. I mean, it could be Great Lakes. So you could have every potential water situation. So it's like I want to bring everything. And I just know I can't bring everything. I need to bring the right things and not worry about bringing those baits that are much more situational. I feel like that's the smart way to do it. So guys, I want to know from you guys, if you could only bring, say, 3 baits without knowing where you're going fishing, what would those 3 baits be? Put that in the comment section, because I think you're going to find this is a lot more difficult than I expected. Uh Man, I I'm going to load that boat down with so much tackle, I feel like. Anyways, I got to get back to it because we're getting ready to take off and get out of here. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know in the comment section your 3 baits. Otherwise, stay tuned. I'll have a lot of updates. I'm planning to do a bunch of updates throughout the week on this event. Should be a good time. Looking forward to it. Root for Team Juice Box. Drew Gill and myself, we're gonna give them hell.